Welcome to H2K Infosys. H2K Infosys is a e-verify business based in Atlanta, Georgia, United States. We provide 100% job-oriented, instructor-led, face-to-face, true live online software training programs. It also includes access to cloud test lab with software tools. We provide live project for you to work on. We also provide assistance with mock interviews, resume preparation and review, and job placement assistance. H2K Infosys is trusted by so many students across the world. H2K Infosys provides world-class services in IT training with real-time project work for corporates and individuals, special IT training for MS students in the United States, software design, development, QA manual and automation, performance testing and maintenance, IT staff augmentation, job placement assistance, and tech support.
Today's class will deal with EJBs. That's the reason we have completed JMS upfront. Are you guys able to hear my voice?
Yes, Krish.
Okay. EJBs, we are going to cover the latest version, which is 3.0, EJB 3.0 version. The previous version is EJB 2.1 version. This is pretty older one. After several years, once the web services boom has came into the market, these guys, they feel that Java specification, EJB was released by Java spec itself. So these guys, they feel that they are supposed to release a new version for EJBs because the older version, EJB 2.1, it is a heavyweight and it was not possible to work properly with the heavyweight components. People used to avoid heavyweight components because it will depend on the framework and nobody will be interested to work on heavyweight components. Heavyweight component, nothing but it will depend on the framework. So in terms of our Java language, we are going to extend or implement an interface, a set of defined interfaces by the spec, and you are supposed to provide the dummy definition for the interface methods. When you are implementing any kind of interface, that means you are supposed to provide the definition for all interface methods. That means even though if you require only one method and the interface consists of 10 methods, then you should provide a dummy definition for the remaining 9 methods. So that's like the heavyweight component. It's not at all required for you, but again, you are supposed to implement all of the interface methods. So later, once these guys, they have released annotation version with the JDK file, they have revisited to EJB as well, and they have released EJB 3.0 version with annotations. EJB 3.0 version, it is lightweight, and it was built based on annotations. And also it was not framework dependent. Framework nothing but it was not specification dependent. the purpose of EJB, the extension, the abbreviation for EJB is Enterprise Java Beans. We already know about the purpose of Java Beans. The Java Beans, they are called as form beans or entities, or you can call as action form beans. You can call with any name, but each and everything will consist of properties and setters and getters. The Enterprise Java Bean, it is purely related to server-side components, or you can say business-oriented components. EJB is an architecture. EJB itself is an architecture for developing any kind of business components. It is purely used for business applications, or you can say it is used for communicating between client and server. Once you have developed a component nothing but a simple Java object you will be going to provide, and you are going to provide the information to the client about your component details, and the client will be able to access the component by using JNDI. We have used JNDI in last class to get the details about our connection factory for JMS or for destination details. Just like the same way, even if you have written some component on the server side, and from the client perspective, currently we are going to write both client and server, but you just need to imagine that client will be residing in one JVM instance and the server will be residing on another JVM instance. So that means you are going to discuss between the JVM instances. See, the object that was available on the server JVM, you are trying to access that particular object from client JVM. That means you need the remote communication between client and server access. So how we can provide an external access for our components? It is again based on the JNDI registries. Once you have developed any kind of Enterprise Java Bean, nothing but you can simply think that as a component that was deployed onto the server, just like how your servlets or JSPs are deployed onto the server, your EJBs are also deployed onto the server, but the exposing to the clients, it will be purely based on the JNDI access. Once you have developed your EJB, you are going to deploy that EJB onto your application server. Last time we have seen about the application server components. Let us come back to that point one more time. Our application server consists of both web container and EJB container. EJB container is responsible for EJB modules or the beans that you are going to develop as a business component. Just like how your web container knows about the life cycle of the servlet, your EJB container also knows about the life cycle of your Enterprise Java Bean or your Bean component. That means the startup of your EJB and also the shutdown of your EJB, nothing but destruction of your EJBs, it will be controlled by your container only. So that means whenever a client wants to access to your EJB, the container will create an instance of the EJB and it will provide an access to the EJB to the client directly. So your EJB is responsible for any kind of business logic and it was not required to maintain any kind of transactions or instances creation or the object destruction. So all these issues will be taken care by your container itself. So that your bean can directly work on business logic itself. Currently, there are 3 types of EJBs available, Java Beans available. Let me open the document. My system is somewhat slow today. There are 3 types of EJBs available. First one is session bean, which will be used to work on business logic. There are 2 types of session beans available. The first one is stateless session bean, and the next one is stateful session bean. As the name suggests, stateless, it won't maintain the conversation state between clients. That means, see, normally when you write any kind of EJB, you are going to deploy onto the server and you're going to expose that to the client by making use of the JNDI registries. So that means you need a communication between client and server. So once you have developed any kind of EJB, the client will try to access that EJB. Take an example of account details itself. Once you have developed an account EJB, let us say you have created one account related EJB, and the account bean will provide access to withdraw method, and also, let me write it up. Let us take an account EJB, or you can call it as an account bean you are trying to write. And the account bean will consist of 3 methods: withdraw method, and deposit method, and get balance method. So this is the server component that you are going to write and deploy onto the application server. So when a client visits any ATM center, he's going to click on the buttons withdraw, deposit, or get balance. That is just like the client machine, and the client machine will trigger a request to the server component to withdraw, deposit, or get balance method. So that means the client needs an access to the EJB, so that will be based on the JNDI that we are going to provide. And once after that, he will get an instance for your account bean. You get an instance. Who will provide the instance? Again, it's our container. EJB container will provide an instance. Once he got the instance, he'll call the withdraw method, deposit method, or get balance method. So these are all business logic methods. And here, in this case, we need the stateful session bean. The reason for that is we need to maintain a conversation state. Once he has clicked on get balance, he might try for withdraw or deposit option. So you can't ask the user to provide the authentication details for the second time. You are supposed to maintain the conversation state. See, once you have clicked on get balance method, it will trigger a request to the server, and the server will respond back to the client. So at that time, once the response has received back to the client, the session will be terminated, or you can say the network connectivity will be removed. So at that time, you need a session so that for the second request also, you are going to identify that it is coming from the same client which was hit by the get balance method. So in that case, you need stateful session bean. Or else let us go for stateless. Let us say our orbis.com is contacting Atran side, and the Atran side, they are exposing the data by making use of EJBs this time, but not by web services. So when the client Atran is discussing with Atran, it was not required for Atran to maintain a conversational state. Whatever the details it has asked based on source, destination, start date, and receive date, it can easily provide the response back to the client, and it was not required to maintain any kind of conversation between them. So in that case, you can go for stateless session bean. And the next one is message-driven bean. Message-driven bean is used to consume messages asynchronously. Last time when we are discussing JMS, we have used receive method to receive the messages from JMS provider. But we are not sure when the client will be going to place the message onto the JMS queues or topics. But as a receiver, you are supposed to listen to the queue all the time, and you can't ask a thread to wait until it has received a message. That was just like a vague design. You are not supposed to follow that kind of approach by using receive method to receive messages asynchronously. For that reason only, they have created one more way, which is your message-driven bean. You are going to write a bean by setting some of the properties. The properties are, what is the destination queue, whether you are using queue or topic, and also some more properties. Once you have provided all this information, then you are going to inform to the EJB container. Once you have written an MDB, in short it is called as MDB. Once you have written an MDB, you can asynchronously listen to the queue. That means you'll be a consumer to the queue or topic. And whenever a message has arrived onto the JMS provider, nothing but your queue or topic, it will be immediately pushed to your MDB by your EJB container. So it's not required for you to wait until you get a message onto the queue or topic. The message will be pushed by your JMS provider, and it will be received by your EJB container, and your EJB container will pass the message to your MDB asynchronously. The last one is Java Persistence API. We have mentioned that 3 beans. The first one is session bean. Second one is message-driven bean. Third one is Java Persistence API. Previously, this was called as entity beans. In 2.1 version, this was called as entity beans, and they have removed entity beans itself, and they have introduced a new framework, which is Java Persistence API. So currently, there won't be any entity beans with EJB 3.0. Entity beans, which is used for database access only. So they have revamped the entire entity beans stuff itself, and they have created JPA, Java Persistence API, and we have already discussed about JPA when we have completed Hibernate. See, EJB 3.0, it was completely based on annotations. So they have incorporated annotations for your entity bean as well, and they have called that as Java Persistence API. So we have already completed one of the beans. We are going to discuss about session beans, and we are going to discuss about message driven bean, and we'll see how to consume the messages asynchronously. Did you guys try working on the JMS, configuring with JBoss application server? Are you guys able to consume the messages or send the messages to queues or topics? Did anyone try that? Okay.
Yes, Chris, no problem.
Okay, cool. See, hardly will have the classes up to June 10th, probably the next 2 weeks. You guys are supposed to practice all the stuff, whatever that you are learning, and you guys are supposed to come up with questions if you have any issues. If you guys are not practicing anything once after the class, just like listening and you are not at all practicing. That means you won't be able to get any kind of information or any kind of knowledge once after the class. So first discuss about session beans. Let me open the document. Let us start with session beans. If you guys not aware of EJB 2.1 version, the EJB 3.0, whatever the concept that you are learning, it will deal with 2.1 only. So normally, if anyone informs you or asks you questions about EJB 3.0, first of all, you need to explain about the disadvantages with EJB 2.1 version. The disadvantages are, just now only we have discussed, EJB 2.1, it is a heavyweight component. And the second thing is, it requires a deployment descriptor. We already know about deployment descriptor, nothing but web.xml. In the same way, for EJBs also, it will consist of EJB web.xml, I guess. I'm not sure about the name. It will consist of one more deployment descriptor file, which is exclusive for your enterprise beans. The configuration for EJB web.xml is pretty complicated. With the EJB 3.0, they have avoided using web.xml, the deployment descriptor file. So that means it's not required to configure your EJBs in deployment descriptor file, and your container will verify all the Java files with annotations. You are not going to write the deployment descriptor, but you are going to inform to the container based on annotations. See, whenever you will write annotation, it is just like the extra information that you are providing to the container. So you are going to inform to the container based on annotations @stateless, @stateful. And we already know about the entity annotations. Entity, ID, column, many-to-one relationships, transient. So all those annotations will provide information to the container. So with EJB 3.0, they have avoided deployment descriptor is just an optional one, and your container will read all the annotations that are available within your Java files, and it will mark them as Enterprise Java Beans and will deploy onto the application server. The next advantage, the big advantage with EJB 3.0. EJB 2.1, if you have written any kind of server component, Enterprise Java Bean component, it is not possible to test the component without the container usage. That means you can't test your EJB outside the container as a standalone Java application. With EJB 3.0, you can verify your EJBs by using a standalone Java client. Nothing but from your main method, you can easily test your EJBs that are deployed onto the container. And the last one is container managed persistence. Nothing but persistence, nothing but related to, it is related to database. With EJB 2.1, we have bean managed persistence and container managed persistence. Nothing but the container managed persistence will be taken care by the container itself. So your entity beans work will be taken care by your container, EJB container itself. With EJB 3.0, you don't have entity beans itself. So you are free from the complex structure of container managed persistence itself. Session bean. Session beans, it will deal with business logic. Entire business logic it will deal with, and from your session bean normally will contact entity beans, nothing but our Java persistence API. See, any kind of application, it will receive the request by using servlet, and once after that, it will forward the request to your Hibernate or processor. In the same way, with your EJBs, your session beans will be responsible for receiving the requests from the clients, and once after that, it will forward the request to your entity beans, nothing but your JPA. Let us create a simple project. To create an EJB project, go to New. Here you can see that there is an option, EJB project. Select EJB project. And here, select the target runtime as JBoss. Provide the name of your application, account project. And once after that, add this to EAR, nothing but Enterprise Archive file. You are going to deploy the application onto your application server. We know about WAR file, and we already know about jar file. Jar file, nothing but a collection of class files. WAR file, nothing but collection of jar files, or it consists of meta-inf and web-inf folder, and within web-inf, it can again contain normal classes or library files. EAR, nothing but Enterprise Archive file, which is a combination of jar and WAR files. Normally, EAR file will consist of your EJB files and also your web related files. You are going to create a jar file for your EJB files. For your web files, you are going to create a bar file and combine both of them and create as an EAR file. This is also just like a package structure, packaging of your application. Once you have deployed your EAR onto your application server will verify the EAR file and it will search for the EJB components available within your jar file. Once after that, it will start those EJB components during the server startup itself. That means the EJB components will be registered in the global JNDI during the startup itself, and it will be available for servicing the clients once after server has started. So from your Eclipse, you have the option of adding them or creating an EAR itself. If you don't have Eclipse, you have one another option, which is add build.xml file. We are going to discuss about and packaging in tomorrow's class. So currently, add it to some kind of EAR. Give the EAR name as account project EAR. Once after that, click on next. This is our source folder. Click on next. Here you can see that the client jar URI, it is going to create one client jar URI. When you are writing web services, you are going to provide the WSDL back to the client, and the client will be going to generate the JAXB artifacts based on the WSD. In the same way, here also you are supposed to provide some kind of information back to the client. Otherwise, how the client will invoke your business methods. So you are going to create a client required jar file, nothing but this will consist of some classes that are used by the client. We'll see what are all the classes. Finally, click on finish. This EJB project, it will create 3 projects within your project explorer. The first one is your server-side business component, and the second one is your client-side application, and the third one is your EAR required project. Here you can see the account project. On the top you can see that there is a bean symbol which is related to your server side, and the next one, account project client. This is a standalone application which is useful for client side, and the next one is account project EAR, which is used to generate your EAR content modules.
So many of our students have given testimonials on how our training programs are. You will find them on kudzu.com and on our website H2Kinfosys.com. On our website H2Kinfosys.com, you will also find more detailed information on who we are, the courses that we offer, what each course covers. Also, if you're interested in a demo program, please register on our homepage on the left-hand side. Just give us more information about yourself and we will send you a link for a demo class. The demo class is absolutely free. Experience our commitment by just attending an orientation workshop at no cost. Our team of faculty and advisors are here to guide you with the right information. If you still have more questions, please feel free to call us. Call us at 770 777-1269. This is a United States number. If you're calling from the UK, call us at 020-337-17615. You can also email us at training@h2kinfosys.com or h2kinfosys@gmail.com. Thank you for watching our videos. We wish you a great career in information technology.